is my dust collection cart. I'll show you how I made it to complement the other tables in my shop. It holds the primary separator and the vacuum. I've built this the same height as its complementing table behind and the same height as my assembly table and, incidentally, the same height as the fest table. Makes it very easy to use it for a lot of different purposes.
This is the first stage of our dust collection system. It knocks out the bigger parts of the sawdust before the shop vac would be clogged by them. It's just made out of an old-fashioned garbage can and a couple of discs of plywood that form the seal at the top, and then a baffle that's put down from the top with a few dowels. The disc has a slot most of the way around. The PVC-L creates the vortex in a, whichever way you look at it, clockwise or counterclockwise direction. Anyway, in this direction. The suction is in the center, and the tools connect to the outside part where the sawdust starts whirling around before it drops out. And the only other parts are a couple of commercial dust ports and some PVC. It captures the bigger pieces of sawdust, not the dust. The dust is still, the actual dust still goes into the shop vac to be collected by the shop vac's bag and filter, but it really helps keep this larger sawdust from clogging the shop vac. We recently added some foil ducting tape to the can to seal up the seams that had started breaking down, and that improved the collection back to when it was first put together.
The framework for this cart is the same as for my mobile outfeed table. That way the two carts match each other. Here I'm putting together the bottom part of the framework. The mortises and tenons were cut on the Panda router. I ensured that the mortises ran with the grain of the wood and not across it. Next, I assembled the top and clamped the two pieces together since they're the same size. After doing a dry fit, it's time to glue up the sides and back of the cart. The bracing in the center allows me to attach the split plywood pieces to the sides and back. I'm going to need regular access to both pieces of my dust collection system, so there's no cross bracing at the front of this cart. The top framing goes on last, and then everything is clamped together and squared. I'm adding 4 locking castors to the bottom. They're the same as on my Outfeed table. You'll find the link for these below. The supporting bottom piece needs to go actually on the underside of the framework because the dust collection system is too tall to fit if I put the shelf on top of the framework instead of underneath. So this is a solution that allows me to have that extra 1.5 inches of height that I need. I have to admit I didn't like the way the castors were moving around, so I chiseled out a bit of the plywood to allow them free movement all the way around. The back is being done in 2 pieces. My goal here is to make my cart by using scrap materials that I have lying around the shop, and I've got the supporting piece across the center of the back, and that's where the seam of the 2 plywood pieces is going to go. Best tool tips and tricks. This 2.5-inch insulation, hard insulation, makes a great backer when you want to cut pieces out on a big sheet. We have ours cut in half so that we can put it on 2 4-foot wide pieces or stretched out for the length. I've got the top cut out of the MDF. I made it a little bit deeper than the other top because I wanted to fill in the gap for the outfeed on my table saw and make sure that it's wide enough. I can always cut that back part off if I want to later on. So I'm going to put the front edge the same distance back as the other one, which is about 1/8 of an inch. And I'll just use a square measuring that. And on each side, I wanted about a 1/2 inch overhang. I cut the top at 45 inches and I've got a 44-inch base. So 1/2 inch on each side. That's good. Just double checking. Okay, I'm going to clamp it down and then I'll screw it up from the underside. Part of my goal of using scrap pieces of material that I have lying around the shop and in the process clean up some of the extra materials is to reuse some of this beadboard that I've had sitting around for ages. Since I don't have quite big enough pieces for the sides, I've decided I'd just go ahead and splice it together. It's plywood. Not that concerned with overall looks like a formal kitchen cabinet, but I do want it to look nice. And the plywood sides will help keep the dust out of the cabinets that I'm doing. So for one of them, I've had to make an extra joint, a little lap joint to join the two pieces together because my cut goes vertically. On the other one, it's horizontal, and that piece will be joined together where I have one of the cross braces in the structure of the cabinet. So this is my finished mobile workbench. The dust collector system fits in if I put the top in first and then tuck the bottom in. The other way around it won't go in, so it's just barely enough room to fit it in on this particular plan. I've rounded over the front and side edges of the tabletop so that they don't ding up. I should probably do that on the back side as well. And I'll finish it off by adding a little bit of boiled linseed oil to the top. It'll turn it a nice brown and give it a good hard surface, and maintain it by waxing it periodically with the rest of my equipment.